All right, so all of the functions that we're going to define here are functions that you need to enter on your calculator. So in order to do that, the x1 and y1, x2, y2 set of points don't work, so we do need to replace the x's with h's and the y's with k's. So the coordinates that we're going to be working with are h1, k1 and h2, k2. Okay, so this is the set of coordinates that we'll use. And so when we figure out our distance formula, the distance is equal to the square root of the difference of our x's squared plus the difference of our y's squared. So if we take the difference of our x's, h1 minus h2, quantity squared, and we add that to the difference of our y values, k1 minus k2, quantity squared, put that all inside of a square root, that is our distance formula. Okay, so we are going to use this here when we set up the actual calculation. All right, so let's take a look at how we define functions on our calculator once again. So the first thing that we're doing is we need to identify what we're doing. We're going to define a function. So that's located up here in this F4 tab. So we're going to choose define. Next, we're going to give our function a name. So again, you want your name to be descriptive enough to understand what you're finding, but it can't be something that already has been assigned in the calculator. So for distance, I'm just going to call it dist. Okay, so if I alpha lock my calculator, I can type that string of letters, dist, and that's descriptive enough that I know I'm finding the distance of this. Okay, the next step is to enter the order of your inputs. Okay, so I'm going to be consistent. The same thing that we did with slope. I'm going to enter my inputs as just a list of coordinates and from one ordered pair to the next. So I'm going to list it as h1, k1. There's one set of ordered pair. Then h2, k2. There's my next set of ordered pair. So when I enter this on my calculator, again in parentheses, I put my inputs in the order that I'm going to input them. So once again, that is h1, k1, followed by h2, k2. All right, questions so far? Okay. Define it, name it, order your inputs. The final step on this is to enter your calculation. So when you enter your calculation, you have to put equals, and then you write the calculation that's being applied to these inputs. So the calculation is this right here. We're going to take the square root. I'm going to write everything on the next line down on my calculator. I'm not going to change lines or anything. But my next line down, I get the square root button. The square root button is right here, second function multiply. Okay? And so if I take on my calculator, hit equals, second multiply to get my square root. Okay? Now, inside of my square root, I have to embed this entire set of quantities. So I have to embed another parentheses to deal with my difference of x values, so h1 minus h2. And I'm going to square that. In order to square something on your calculator, you use the caret symbol. It's right above the division key. Okay, so I'm going to put, again, another set of parentheses, take the difference of my x's, so h1 minus h2, and I'm going to square that value. So here's this first group. I can then add my second group, which I have to embed within parentheses as well. So plus the difference of my y values, k1 minus k2, quantity squared. And so I can enter that on my calculator. K1 minus k2, caret symbol 2, and then close off your parentheses. Thank you. Okay, so when I do that, it shows me the command done, means that it's recorded this. And what we can now do is test it to make sure it works. So I'm going to test this with the sample problem that we already did in this section. And that was sample problem number 5. On sample 5, it gave you the coordinates for A as 2, negative 1, the coordinate for B as negative 4, 3, and it asked you to find the distance AB. And we found that distance to be 2 root 13. So when we enter these coordinates in our calculator using this distance function, we should get the answer 2 root 13. So let's test it. And remember, to access this user-defined function, we need to find the var link window. So second subtraction opens up that menu, and then you can scroll down to distance. I see that it's my third one here, so if I scroll down, hit dist, and then in parentheses I'm going to order my inputs just as a list of coordinates. So 2 followed by -1, there's my first ordered pair, followed by -4, followed by 3, there's my second ordered pair. Now when I hit enter, it should state 2√13, and it confirms that I entered it correctly.